රිවයින් කරන්න පුළුවන් නිසා මුකුත් මගේ වෙන්නේ.
BOTV TV බලන හොඳම විදිහ.
Making headlines on First at 9. The English law. Prime Minister Reintroducing reveals in Singapore that UK law will be applied to offshore dealings of businesses that will be established in the upcoming port city.
As far as the offshore activities are concerned, apply the UK law, wholesale. Now UK is very interested in it.
Going back up, the Cabinet of Ministers today decided to increase the fuel prices of Sipetco as per the price formula recently introduced. Deadly solutions. With the increasing crime wave in the country, the government plans to bring back the capital punishment for serious crimes. An unfair deal. Former Central Bank Governor Jitnivat Cabral alleges that public institutions such as the FCID, Bribery Commission and several others are heavily politicized.
But now we have seen that there is an organized scheme of political victimization and political revenge that is taking place in our country.
Cave rescue mission. The rescue operations which captivated the world came to an end today with the last remaining 4 boys and their football coach were safely brought out of the cave in Thailand. A very good evening to you and welcome to First at 9. I'm Katharina Chang. Now on to your top story tonight. The government has decided to increase the price of petrol and diesel from midnight today. Cabinet Media Corps spokesperson Minister Dr. Rajapaksa said accordingly the price of a litre of octane 92 petrol will be increased by 8 rupees while the prices of diesel will go up by 9 rupees. The decision was arrived at following a special meeting with the President at the Presidential Secretariat this evening.
Special discussions were held at the Presidential Secretariat today pertaining to the price revision of fuel carried out in accordance with the automatic fuel pricing mechanism introduced by the Ministry of Finance recently. It is in this backdrop that the Ministry of Finance decided to increase the prices of diesel and petrol on the 5th of this month. The government, however, decided to retract the decision the very next day. According to the Ministry of Finance, the prices of fuel should be adjusted once in every 2 months in accordance with world oil prices. With a final decision on the revision of fuel prices not forthcoming during the cabinet meeting this morning, it was decided to hold a special meeting at the Presidential Secretariat this evening. A group, including Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and the Minister of Finance Mangala Samaravira, were in attendance for the meeting, where it was decided to revise the prices of fuel with effect from midnight today. Thereby, a litre of octane 92 petrol will be increased to 145 rupees, while octane 95 will be increased to 155 rupees per litre. Meanwhile, a litre of diesel will be increased to 118 rupees, while a litre of super diesel will go up to 129 rupees from midnight today. The Ministry of Finance added that prices of fuel will be revised once every month. In the meantime, State Minister of National Policies and Economic Affairs Dr. Harshadi Silva in a tweet said that he is glad that the President appreciated the need to continue the fuel pricing formula and added that it is a positive development for the country which will help manage macro variables plus demand-side management. He added that it is the formula that should decide the price and more frequent the adjustments, the better it is. Meanwhile, a three-wheeler association lodged a complaint against the Ministry of Finance at the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption today. They cite that the ministry was able to earn an income in an illegal fashion by increasing the prices of fuel on the midnight of the 5th of July, which was revised shortly after.
The government has decided to bring back the death penalty in a bid to curb criminal activities witnessed across the country. Minister Buddhasasana Gaminija Vikram Pereira confirmed the government's decision to media following the cabinet meeting held today. The minister added that instructions have already been issued to the Ministry of Justice to enforce the death penalty. In the meantime, police media spokesperson SP Ruwan says that several police units have been deployed to conduct investigations into the recent shooting at Jampata and Peta. Police media spokesperson SP Ruwan says that investigations on the recent shootings in Jampata and Peta have commenced under several police units. Colombo Municipal Councillor Krishna Pillai Kirubanandan was shot by unidentified gunmen at Chetty Street last morning. Meanwhile, another shooting incident occurred the previous night in Jampata Street, Colombo, killing a husband and wife. The victims were identified as Selvaya Selvaraja and his wife Elizabeth Pereira. The police media spokesperson added that preliminary investigations carried out by the police have revealed that these murders were results of long-standing disputes. SP Ruangunasekara further noted the deceased Colombo Municipal Councillor had previously been arrested twice for possession of cannabis. Taking into consideration the recent incidents of criminal activity in the country, the Cabinet of Ministers unanimously decided to reintroduce the death penalty. This was revealed by Minister of Buddha Sasana Gamini Jayavikrama Pereira following the Cabinet meeting held this morning.
The entire Cabinet of Ministers suggested that we reintroduce the death penalty as there are those who sit in prisons and continue to be involved in drug trafficking. This is destroying our country. This task will be undertaken by the Minister of Justice, who is already instructed to do so following notification of the Prime Minister. Everyone agreed to this decision. Nobody disagreed to this. This is the first time I've ever seen this happen.
Speaking to First at 9, former chairman of the National Police Commission, Professor Siri Hettige, said that state institutions should work together in order to take proactive measures to reduce crime.
When you look around, you realize that there are so many state institutions that we have established to deal with the causes of crime. So the point is that these institutions have a very important role to play. But I have a feeling that in this country we have failed to really get the institutions to perform their basic functions that they have been established for. They have the mandate to deal with those. So we have to deal with the whole range of causes of crime so that we will be able to reduce crime residual matter, which can then be certainly addressed by law enforcement agencies. We need a coordinated approach to dealing with crime. It is important that we figure out how we could deal with crime, before crime takes place.
Meanwhile, views pertaining to the upsurge of criminal activity in the recent past was expressed by politicians today.
The police media spokesperson speaks of certain illegal activities the victims have been involved in. If you take the murder of the wife and husband in Kotahena and the murder of the Colombo Municipal Councillor, who is part of an independent party, you can see that he made similar statements. Such statements should not be made by a police media spokesperson. When there is a breakdown in a country's law and order with criminal activity on the rise, it is not right to criticize the victim's character to justify their murder. There has been an upsurge in criminal activity. The government should become empathetic to this matter and enact the law. The remedy for law of the jungle is not more of the same, but state law. In the past 3.5 years, the government has made Sri Lanka a dangerous place. It is worse than certain tribal areas in Africa. In the case of the murder that took place in Anuradhapura, we saw the police media spokesperson protecting the UNP ministers by being biased. One of my personnel was framed by the police for the possession of drugs. Then he was taken to court and solicited a bribe. The police cannot eradicate the underworld by being involved in such activities, and creating a war that is not there will not help either.
Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Public Administration and Management and Law and Order, Nalin Bandara, insists although there has been a spike in criminal activity in recent times, annual data indicate a decrease in crimes. The Deputy Minister touched on the subject at a media briefing held today.
Looking at statistics relating to organised crime, there has been an annual decrease even though we have seen an increase in the recent past. These crimes are the result of long-standing disputes between underworld groups which have led to the increase of murders and other criminal activity. We will have to introduce new laws. We will have to dispatch police and the army to inspect jail cells. If we are able to hold certain criminal activities taking place within prison walls, we can stop drug trafficking within 5 months.
Former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa welcomes the prospect of cases filed against him being heard at the newly formed Special High Courts. Responding to questions raised by media following an event held in Madagama of Bibila today, the former Defence Secretary said that he would call on the government to take up cases against him first. Former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa attended a religious event held at the Muthubandana temple in Madagama of Bibila today. He then responded to questions raised by media.
The police say that the recent incidents of violence are related to narcotics. During the tenure of the former president, a protracted war was ended while narcotics and the underworld was eradicated. We can see that those are emerging once more. Just like everything else, this also proves the inability of the government. There is no decision on it yet. It's former President Mahinda Rajapaksa who is to decide it. It's police officers, intelligence officers, army personnel, policemen and prison guards who are imprisoned today, the very people who attempted to eradicate these. There was a prison riot a while back, and now army personnel and intelligence officers are questioned for allegedly killing drug dealers and underworld figures. A prison guard and 2 policemen are already arrested without just cause. But we don't see the government chasing after drug dealers or underworld figures. I'm glad. I request that cases against me taken up ahead of the queue.
2 new state ministers took oath before President Maithripala Sirisena at the Presidential Secretariat this morning. Kandy District MP Lucky Jawardena, who was serving as the State Minister of Hill Country, New Villages, Infrastructure and Community Development, took oath as the State Minister of Urban Development and Water Supply. Kurunagala District MP J.C. Alawatuwala, who was serving as the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs, took oath as the State Minister of Home Affairs. Secretary to the President Udaya R. Seneviratne was also present on the occasion. The organisation Voice for Justice urges the government to own up to the fact that there haven't been any fraud perpetrated by the previous government. It argues that there are 3.5 years of extensive investigations have not yielded any evidence of such fraud, and it is high time the government admitted it. Joining the maiden media briefing of the organisation Voice for Justice today, former Governor of the Central Bank Ajit Niwat Cabral also alleged that public institutions such as the FCID, Bribery Commission and several others are heavily politicised.
In the last 3.5 years, we have been watching, we have been waiting to see how it is progressing. But now we have seen that there is an organized scheme of political victimization and political revenge that is taking place in our country. So that is why we believe it is necessary for us to be a voice for all those people who have been inconvenienced, subjected to various harassment and humiliation as a result of the activities of this government. We have found that the government itself has been involved in this. In many occasions, we have seen how government ministers, together with law enforcement agencies and the police, have been meeting together in order to take these efforts forward. We have seen President Sirisena himself coming and saying that institutions such as the FCID, the Bribery Commission and several other institutions have been politicized. There were newspaper reports in October 2016 to that effect, where he has very clearly stated that these institutions have been used to undertake political activities as well. So it is time now, after 3.5 years of intense examination, of intense scrutiny, for them to admit that there is no crime that has been perpetrated. And all these things have been lies which they have propagated over the last 3.5 years just for a political purpose.
The Government Medical Officers Association warns that they will move for a strike action unless several of their demands are not met. Among their issues is the delay in increment of the disturbance, availability and transport allowance given to medical officers. Addressing a media briefing yesterday, Secretary of the GMOA, Dr. Harita Alutge, said that they will resort to a strike action without prior notice after the 17th of this month if their concerns are left unaddressed.
Item issue, now the President has involved and given the solution. We have appreciated the stand taken by the President in this item issue. And like in this item issue, there are certain issues which has come up without any solutions up to now. For example, one of the main worrying factor for the doctors is the DAT allowance, which has not been, the necessary recommendations were not forwarded to the necessary parties. And we are awaiting the response from the Treasury and the Finance Ministry. Up to now, no response from the Treasury has been reached regarding the change of the debt allowance. And on the other hand, the minimum standard of the medical education and the issues related to the SLMC and signing of free trade agreements without basic frameworks in the country and without a national policy. All these things we have addressed to His Excellency the President today, and we have asked the intervention from His Excellency the President regarding these issues. The GMO Executive Committee today has decided that if the authorities fail to respond to these demands, we will compel to go for a trade union action, all island trade union action, starting from 17th.
Prime Minister of Thailand, General Prayut Chan-o-cha, will undertake an official visit to Sri Lanka on the 12th of this month. The visit takes place against the backdrop of discussions during President Maithripala Sirisena's visit to Thailand in November of 2015. He will be received by President Sirisena at the Presidential Secretariat on the 12th and accorded an official guard of honour and gun salute. According to government sources, a significant feature of the visit will be the launch of negotiations for a possible free trade agreement between Sri Lanka and Thailand. Sources also said that several MOUs will be signed between the countries with the transfer of offenders and cooperation in the enforcement of penal sentences, as well as strategic economic partnership being among them. An MOU on technological collaboration related to value additions of primary products will also be inked. The Attorney General today ordered the Inspector General of Police to conduct investigations into the controversial statement by former State Minister Vijayakala Maheshwaran at a public meeting. Let's now take a look at some other stories making news across Sri Lanka.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced that the fishing boat and the 7 fishermen who went missing after setting off from Galle were found safe on seas near the Maldives. The fishermen set off to sea on the 14th of last month and communication with land stopped from the 29th of June. Meanwhile, family members and relatives engaged in a protest campaign demanding the government to look for them. Deputy Minister of Sustainable Development, Wildlife and Regional Development, Palitha Tewaraperuma, was left incensed after wildlife officials allegedly arrived late in a disorganized fashion for an elephant deterrent operation at the Madunagala Reserve in Suryawava.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back to the news. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe reveals that UK law will be applied to offshore dealings at the Colombo port city, which he also calls the financial city. Joining a question and answer session held in line with Singapore Business Summit with the participation of the Singaporean Minister of Trade and Industry today, the Premier said that the government is in the process of preparing necessary legislation pertaining to the project. Under such legislation, the Prime Minister added that a financial commission will be established with the landfill area of the port city as its area of authority. The 6th World Cities Summit got underway yesterday under the theme Livable and Sustainable Cities, Embracing the Future Through Innovation and Collaboration. It saw the participation of representatives of around 135 countries. During today's session of Singapore Business Summit, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe joined a question and answer session, which was also attended by Singaporean Minister of Trade and Industry S. Easwaran.
I would like to ask the Honourable Prime Minister, what do you think is the strategic role that the port city will play in the development of the economy of Sri Lanka?
As I mentioned, the Port City project was started as real estate development, but we've now decided that the offshore center will be in the port, so it will be greenfield, and it's very easy for us to control. Well, as you know, the landfill will be over next year, and then it's a question of construction. But on our side, we have now started working out on the financial city. The objective, though we call it financial city, is really to ensure a group of services are available. As far as the offshore activities are concerned, apply the UK law, wholesale. Now UK is very interested in it, and they said they come along and work with us in applying the UK law, ensuring English is used, and I can understand that as they are leaving the European Union, they are looking at other activities. So, okay, here is a place that we've opened out. We are now in the process of preparing the legislation. There will be about 3 sets of legislation. The first set of legislation will just establish the commission and declare its control, its area of authority of being the landfill area. But only for offshore services. As far as urban regulation is concerned, the existing laws will apply. Also, we are going into some detailed issues with the Attorney General. For instance, what are you will have enterprises which will have agreements on the basis of the offshore law, as well as the existing Sri Lankan law with internal suppliers. So, a lot of issues to be sorted out, which identifying. We hope the next 2 months we should have at least the cabinet paper on the Financial Commission approved, so it will be passed by Parliament early next week.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka released a statement today requesting all depositors of VTI Finance Limited and Swarna Mahal Finance Services Limited to be patient until the business activities of Swarna Mahal are restructured. The statement also encourages them to cooperate with the Central Bank appointed management panel for the implementation of the taken decisions. It further says that the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka instructed the Swarna Mahal Finance Services Limited to pay 10% of deposit liabilities urgently, commencing from the 10th of this month. In today's statement, the Central Bank says that the details of the payment plan will be communicated to depositors by Swarna Mahal Finance Limited shortly. Sri Lankan shares closed steady today while turnover slumped to a near 3-month low as many investors remained on the sidelines. The All-Share Price Index ended flat at 6,077.37 and hardly changed from yesterday's close, while the turnover stood at 142.7 million rupees. For more details, we have Imeshri Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange.
The market capitalization at the end of the day was 2,838.98 billion rupees. Today's foreign purchases were 63.25 million rupees and foreign sales were 61.5 million rupees. There was one cross-in today and the cross-in turnover was 21.28 million rupees.
Let's now take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies around the world. The rescue operations which captivated the world came to an end today with the last remaining 4 boys and their football coach was safely brought out of the cave complex they were trapped in Thailand. Rescuers brought 4 boys and their coach to the surface today following the extraction of 4 boys on Sunday and another 4 yesterday. 12 boys of a school football team and their coach were trapped in the Tham Luang Cave complex on the 23rd of last month after rains flooded the caves and blocked their exit.
The news that all 12 boys and their coach have been rescued will come as a huge relief to millions in Thailand and around the world who have followed every step of this captivating story. The boys, aged between 11 and 16, went into the cave with their 25-year-old football coach on the 23rd of June after a training session. They were then trapped by floodwaters after heavy rains and retreated further into the cave to find safety. News that they had gone missing sparked a massive search operation involving more than 1,000 people, with several expert cave divers from all around the world flying in to help out. On the 2nd of this month, 9 days later, British divers found the hungry and fatigued group huddled on a ledge in a cavern. Jubilation turned into grave concern after the military warned that the boys would have to wait for up to 4 more months for floodwaters to recede before they could be rescued. Divers brought food and other supplies, and a Navy doctor was sent into care for the group. On Sunday, the rescuers decided they had to act, with fears that flooding would only get worse. And so, a remarkable operation began to extricate the team. 4 boys were taken out on Sunday, 4 on Monday, and the remaining 4 and their coach today.
British Prime Minister Theresa May's new look cabinet has met for the first time after a string of resignations over her Brexit strategy left her government in crisis. May was forced to carry out a reshuffle of her top team after Boris Johnson and David Davis both quit. The Prime Minister has warned that the Tory party must unite or face the prospect of Jeremy Corbyn in power. Meanwhile, speaking to media yesterday, President of the European Council Donald Tusk said that with or without Davis, the mess created by Brexit was far from solved.
Former Foreign Minister Boris Johnson was seen departing his central London residence after resigning yesterday, following former Brexit Minister David Davis quitting the cabinet just days after Prime Minister Theresa May secured a hard-won agreement from senior ministers on the EU exit strategy. The resignations leave May facing down the biggest crisis of her leadership, denouncing her former Foreign Secretary over his failure to back her Brexit strategy and demanding loyalty from the rest of her cabinet. The new cabinet met for the first time today, with Jeremy Hunt and Dominic Raab replacing the top positions. Following the meeting, Theresa May tweeted, "Productive cabinet meeting this morning, looking ahead to a busy week." In Brussels, European Council President Donald Tusk said yesterday that Britain's departure from the European Union is an issue that is far from being solved, and the situation has not changed with the departure of Brexit Minister David Davis.
Politicians come and go, but the problems they have created for the people remain. And the mess caused by Brexit is the biggest problem in the history of EU-UK relations. And it is still very far from being solved, with or without Mr. Davis. And unfortunately, the idea of Brexit hasn't left together with David Davis.
The UK is due to leave the European Union on the 29th of March in 2019, but the two sides have yet to agree how trade will work between the UK and the EU after that.
At least 19 people have been injured in a plane crash near the city of Pretoria in South Africa a short while ago. Local emergency services posted a picture on Twitter showing passengers being helped out of a plane in a grassy field. Unconfirmed reports said one person was critically injured. Images showed a burning aircraft marked Martin's Air Charter. Let's now cross over to a short commercial break.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
The Football World Cup moves another step closer to Sunday's crescendo as 1998 winners France takes on what is dubbed the golden generation of Belgium later. The match will kick off in the St. Petersburg Stadium at 11:30 p.m. Sri Lankan time. Heading into the match, the teams are equally matched, but some give France the edge.
France coach Didier Deschamps says it would be a pleasure to see French football icon Thierry Henry later today, who is an assistant to Belgium coach Roberto Martinez. Deschamps, who played with Henry in France's 1998 World Cup winning squad, says it would be a very difficult situation for the 40-year-old. France are slight favourites to go through to the final, although Belgium edged the wins between the two sides 30-24 of the 73 meetings. Meanwhile, Belgium coach Martinez says the team's concentration would be key in their semi-final today and that the tactical adventure he used against Brazil in the quarter-finals was no guarantee to secure a win. Midfielder Kevin De Bruyne, who scored his first goal in Russia against Brazil, said the team was aware that it was now or never. Asked about Thierry Henry, who will try to stop his country from advancing to Sunday's final, Martinez said he had brought the international experience to the team as well as elite thoughts.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Taking a look at your weather forecast for the next 24 hours now, wind speeds of up to 50 to 60 kilometers can be expected in central, north-central, northwestern Uva and Sabaragama provinces. Meanwhile, fairly heavy rainfall of above 50 millimeters may occur in western, Sabaragama, central, northwestern and southern provinces. With that, let's now take a look at your city-by-city forecast. And before we go, as usual, we'd like to leave you with some visuals of the Jaffna Fort. Built by the Portuguese in 1618 under Philip de Oliveira following the Portuguese invasion of Jaffna, the fort is only a large military fort in the country, owing to the presence of buildings within its ramparts exclusively operated by the government and the military. We hope you enjoy these visuals and have a pleasant evening.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.